Listen to this story. Three adventurers walk into a tavern after 2 weeks of traveling and surviving the enormous mountains. They are from out of town, and they clearly don't belong to this small town in the Blue Mountains. They are searching for an old man who might have the answers. But their clock has reached 9 p.m., and one of them has to catch the bus to get home on time. These are not three heroes from a Tolkien novel. These are four adventurers that dive into a world of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Luca Villas-Lobodianic, and you're listening to For the Record on BCIT's The Crow. Today you're meeting Montana, a Dungeon Master, CEO, and co-founder of the YVR Dungeon Master Society, a club where they teach and introduce newbies to the wonderful game of D&D. But first, a quick summary of Dungeons & Dragons history. In the Twin Cities in the 60s, a group of students that love feeling like Napoleon or Julius Caesar played a type of game called War Game. After creating their own games role-playing war scenarios, they slowly added fantasy aspects inspired by novels like Lord of the Rings. Finally, in the year 1973, they published their first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, a small book with the rules to play. This was a complete failure, but after re-editing the game, it became a hit, and it only became increasingly more popular, creating a pop culture phenomenon featured in movies and TV shows like Netflix Stranger Things. D&D has shaped generations of nerds, like me, and it only grows more and more. We begin our conversation by talking about how the YVR Dungeon Master Society started.
Hello.
Hello, Montana. Hello again.
Very nice to talk to you today, Lucas.
Nice talking with you. Well, let's start quick. Let's do this quick so I don't take too much time from you. First, could you tell me your name and your introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name is Montana Rosal. I'm a local improviser, and I help found YVR Dungeon Masters. I'm the CEO currently.
Okay, could you tell me a little bit of the story? How did you how the idea of the Dungeon Master Society was born?
Yeah, absolutely. So YVR Dungeon Masters started when a long time ago, around 2017, 2016. I wanted to know how we can bring our community together. So I made a Facebook post to say, hey, is there any dungeon masters would like to get together and talk? And they came out. We met in the park. I met this person named Lauren Namath, and he wanted to find how could we. He was looking for how to be the best dungeon master. What was like a professional dungeon master? And I was telling him about how we could bring the community together, and he suggested that we found a nonprofit. And yeah, since that day, we decided to create events to teach people how to play Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role playing games.
Okay, where do you meet?
Generally, we meet at the Burnaby Public Library, but we've also done stuff at the New Westminster Library and a place called La Fontana. That was before there was a restaurant. They run this thing called Nerd HQ, but that restaurant is no more anymore. We also did some stuff at Connection Games, but currently the place that we're doing a lot of our stuff out of is the Burnaby Public Library. And sometimes during the summer, we like to go outside at Trout Lake and do events out there, out in the sun.
Okay, so sorry again. How many years does the society has again?
It's been 8 years, so it's been since 2018.
18. So what's been your favorite moment so far in those 8 years?
I mean, there's been a couple. But I think the most favorite moment is actually seeing someone who came to one of our intro events He came from Alberta. He didn't know anyone, and he wanted to meet some friends. He came to one of our events, and then he learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And then we brought him to a group. So we formed a group, some other people that wanted to play a game. We got them all together. We taught them all how to play the game, and they've been playing D&D for the past 5 years. And they've invited me out to do D&D camping, to like birthdays and stuff like that, and just because they appreciate so much how much we brought this friend group together. And there's been other friend groups we've brought together through these tables, and that's really what we're about, is trying to bring people together to tell stories and have fun.
Okay, how long have you been playing D&D?
I've been playing D&D. It's actually not too long, comparatively to some other people that have been playing for like my business partner Lauren. He's been playing for like 30, 40 years. I've only been playing for the past 10 years, 10, 12 years.
Okay, and how have you made many friends through D&D?
Oh, tons. But not only just through D&D, it actually created my life right now, what I have for my career. I'm an improviser, so I learned how to do improv through trying to be a better dungeon master. I went to a class, I really enjoyed it, and then I started doing that more to become a better dungeon master, and I met a bunch of friends, and now I teach acting to kids. So it's Dungeons and Dragons kind of opened up my life to a place that I didn't know that I was going to get to.
There is been this, well, it happened more in the 80s, I would say, this like demonization of D&D. How do you think is the perspective, like, how do you think that society sees D&D nowadays?
Dungeons and Dragons is more of a it's less as an evil force that corrupts people and more of a way of telling stories. Yes, there was the satanic panic in the early 80s, but that was because there was Christian groups that didn't understand what it was, and nowadays there's actually youth pastors that play D&D with uh, their group. So I think that nowadays people look at it as more of a tool to tell stories and be collaborative and creative with some people in person or online, whatever you works best for everyone. But I think now it's a way of maybe connecting with people, sitting down at a table, rolling some dice, having an adventure.
And well, if you could simplify for those who don't know what's D&D, if you could like simplify how the what's D&D, just like in a few words.
Yeah, I can give an elevator pitch. So Dungeons and Dragons is a game where you sit around a table and you tell a story with friends. There's a dungeon master. They're the one telling the story of the adventure. They play the characters that the people at the table, that the players aren't going to be playing those roles. So the players get to decide what they want to do with their characters. They want to climb a tree. They want to jump over a cliff. They want to persuade someone to do something. That would require the players to make a skill check roll. So they roll a d20. So it's a 20-sided die. They roll that die, and then they add whatever skills that they have on their character sheet. And then they could do it or not do it. And sometimes they have magic to alter and change things if they need to. But it's basically character sheet, player rolls the dice, dungeon master tells you whether you succeed or fail, or if you need to make another check or something like that. And then you go on an adventure with your character. There's no winning or losing. It's really just, does your character succeed in their story? Where do they go? How do they live? Sometimes characters die, but most of the time it's all about just having fun.
Okay, and now a little bit more on the Dungeon Master Society. Uh, what are the goals forward with the Dungeon Master Society?
Right now we're running at like a zero cost, so a lot of stuff that we do is free. So the libraries allow us to use their spaces free. If possible in the future, we'd love to have some angel investors to come in and help us have like a set place that we call our own, so then we can run games more times than just once or twice a month. We'd love to be able to also then spread out into other communities, if possible, into other provinces, and maybe around the world. But I think that it's important to try to be able to reach as many people as possible. I think D&D and other tabletop role-playing games is something that can really help people bring out who they are as people.
You've been listening, for the record, BCIT News.
Do you remember home economics class in high school? For many students, home economics is remembered as the class where you learned how to sew a button, baked cookies, or somehow survive a chaotic cooking lab. But as schools increasingly tailor education towards academics and university pathways, some educators say practical life skills are slowly coming apart at the seams.
A kid can want to take sewing all they want, but if the parent doesn't sign off on the sheet at the end of the year saying, yep, I'm allowing my child to take these courses, then it's not going to happen.
For more than 2 decades, Celine Jackson has taught home economics in Richmond schools. Before entering the classroom, she worked in costume design for stage and television. Notably, she sewed the costumes for popular show Supernatural. Today, she teaches foods, textiles, and fashion courses at Jan Burnett Secondary School. I'm Dana Tingala for BCIT's The Crow. Today on For the Record, we stitched together a conversation about the changing value of home economics and why teachers believe these skills still deserve a place in the classroom.
So I teach at a very academic school, and usually I find that kids are more worried about getting the prereqs they need to get into a higher university. And home ec isn't a prereq for, say, UBC or SFU. It is an elective course, it is a choice course, and for some kids they see the value in it because they learn different kinds of skills. It's life skills that they can continue on with them. But there are many that just see I need to get into college, what is the bare basics I need, and those tend to be more academic courses. And so sometimes I find that I even have parents that push back because they want their kid to have the extra math or the extra science, and sometimes they don't see that their child needs a balanced schedule as well. Like having a home ec course can kind of lighten the load and be a little bit more fun, and then that way they're struggling with their chemistry or math. There's that home ec one that makes school a little bit more enjoyable. But it's hard to see that overall picture in the end. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so often I find any electives, and it's not just home ec, sometimes are undervalued as you need to have balance, you need to be well-rounded. And I try to show parents, some of my most successful students have gone on to careers that are desirable by these academic, parents. One of my students actually went and became a brain surgeon and wrote a really lovely piece about how sewing matters to patients, because good sewing means less scar tissue and better scar lines and overall patient health, and is not diminished by self-esteem with having scars and things like that. And it was very unique. It was the first time I've seen sewing in a medical paper, and I thought that was really cool. But sometimes you need to point that out, right? Or for instance, in foods class, I have to point out that a lot of the people I went to school with were in the nutrition classes with me, doctors, nurses, dietitians, and it's the same classes I took. And they don't see the value sometimes. You have to point it out to them first. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So sometimes I think we just need a reminder. And then my favorite line when I talk to parents, especially when they're like, why is my kid in foods? I have to remind them that everyone has to eat. And I think feeding ourselves, and especially nowadays with groceries being skyrocketing, that we need to go back to sometimes the older methods about cooking at home, learning how to budget, and learning how to grocery shop. So for example, just the other day, I taught my senior foods class how to cut up a whole chicken. So you get, your $10 chicken, how do you cut it up into all the different parts? And then we turn it into 6 different recipes and really stretch that $10 chicken out. And then these are the skills I want them to take into adulthood, because they're going to face high grocery prices and things like that too. So I think sometimes we need to be reminded of the value of a class like home economics.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, BCIT. Yeah. When you go into college, it's crazy. The expenses, crazy.
Yeah, I give the example. Like, I know I graduated in the 2000s, but I gave the example that when I went to university, I only had $300 at the end, like after I paid my rent, after I paid school fees, and I was in fashion, so I had to buy materials and supplies and things like that. I only had $300 or less a month for groceries, and it was difficult, but because I knew how to cook from scratch and I knew how to do all these things, I could make meals that stretched out my budget and not be that starving student eating ramen and mac and cheese and things like that. So I think sometimes we need to be reminded about that. Sometimes that is the better way.
Yes. And why do you think these practical life courses like cooking, sewing, or budgeting are sometimes viewed differently from more academic classes?
Like I said, I think it comes down to the prereqs that universities need. So like, you go apply for engineering and all you need is your 2 sciences, your math. I think people really, especially the students, they focus on that first. Yeah. And sometimes I think we have to remind them that balance is important. And like, I know in CLE 10, that's Career Life Education 10, there is a component where we try to explain what work-life balance looks like for adults. It's hard for the kids to see that because they're under stress with their academic load. But then we try to remind them, like, that's what your electives are there for too. It's for you guys to explore different avenues. I also think sometimes, like, the kids don't see the other non-tangible skills they're learning usually in electives. Like, I was just saying to my textile kids, one of them sewed a hole. They serged a hole right through their project.
Oh no.
So then I said, okay, we're going to use some creative thinking. How are we going to solve this? What are we going to do next? And these are things that are not written in the instructions. We have to use creative thinking and we have to think outside the box. I had 2 of them do it. One realized that they're going to have to recut a whole piece and carefully, skillfully take it all apart, re-put it back in. No one's going to be the wiser. The other person was too far down their project, and they ended up creating this really cool embroidery design on top. It was a peacock feather, and it was monotone with the fabric and the thread. And it was so beautiful that when everyone saw it, they're like, I want to do that to my project. But this was the creative thinking that this student had to do to cover up the mistake or change the mistake. And I think that's a skill they don't realize they're learning necessarily, but they are. So that's what I would hope some students realize. But I really do think it's because of the university entrance. Most of our students here, especially at Burnett, are really gung-ho on getting into UBC, SFU, BCIT. And most of the programs they're going for are sciences and things like that. So home economics isn't usually needed. I help with the overall GPA for graduation. I help with, when you're applying for scholarships and things like that, I think they see the value then, but just for that initial entrance, it's not seen. So, yeah.
When I came to Burnett, there was only 1 sewing course, and then in grade 12, there was 2, so you got the grade 8s in 1. 3?
I have 3 senior textiles now, and
there's
4 grade 8s. So I can speak a little bit to that. So
yes.
Sometimes, because we are electives are selected by the student. Sometimes it's because of the teacher. You get a really enthusiastic teacher who's passionate about the subject. It shows. Kids get really excited because there's someone in there that's really passionate. And then they want to sign up for the course. So, like, I have kids that, I even had a grade 9 student tell me this year, I signed up for the course because of you. I said, it wasn't because you like textiles? And they said, no, it was because of you. And I was like, oh, I try to encourage kids, like, you should be signing up for the subject matter that makes you enthusiastic. But it is sometimes the teacher. And then a lot of times what happens is, you know, it's about advertising too. It's like selling yourself. So, you know, sometimes if you do a really good job, like showing the kids, like, this is what you do in senior foods, this is what you do in senior textiles, and you sell your course well, then kids are more likely to sign up for it. So perhaps the year that you were last, you know, started, you know, it didn't get marketed as well that one year. And so not as many signed up. And so then I have to go with however many blocks. Like if I have 25 kids sign up, that's one block. If I have 75 kids sign up, that's 3 blocks. It also means as an electives teacher, it's the most stressful thing because sometimes your job is always in flux. There have been years where I was short 1 block all the time. And I know that going into the year, oh, you're only having 6 out of 7 blocks to teach. And then usually when September starts, we get an influx of kids in the district or in the catchment area, and things happen where they have to add blocks in, then I get my full load back. So sometimes I know this happens not just to home ec, but this can happen to all subject areas that are electives, like tech ed and business and art. It's really about sometimes that teacher, and it's really about you know, marketing to the kids that this is a worthwhile course to take. And sometimes it's about convincing the parents too, because in the end, the parents have the final say. A kid can want to take sewing all they want, but if the parent doesn't sign off on the sheet at the end of the year saying, yep, I'm allowing my child to take these courses, then it's not going to happen. So again, how do you market to parents? How do you tell parents that your course is a really important one to take next year? That can be really tricky. So I think I've been really actively trying to do that again, especially like communication to parents, emails, and meet the teacher night. I really try to show off not just what your child's doing in that one course, but what they're doing in the senior levels too, so they can see the future and what it could be like. So that's a lot of the reason why.
Yes, we are running low on tape. We only have 2 minutes
Sorry?
left. No, that's not your fault. So just one last question. When you think about the future of education, where do you see home economics fitting into that conversation?
I think we need to encourage kids that some of our life skills are just as important as the academics. I would love to see universities include, you know, courses like mine as part of their prerequisites. Yes. But that is on their side of things. I think I would love to see parents see the value of taking things like home economics, like how to repair your own clothes and how to, you know, shop and budget and things like that. And I think people are starting to see that again with our economy being the way it is. So that sales pitch is starting to become more relevant. I think it's just a bit of an attitude shift slowly that, you know, sometimes these old skills are the ones that we need for life, and that, you know, they will need it past their degree. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to say. Sorry, didn't I?
No, that's okay. Yeah, if this was a university course in BCIT, would have helped me. Lots of missing buttons when we go into the field. I
joke there should be an adulting 101 class.
Yes.
Like, I actually have parents now, and this is like, I noticed this in the last couple of years. So meet the teacher night, when I'm talking about the course and what the kids are going to learn, I've actually had parents now put up their hand and go, do you teach an adult ed course on this too? Can I take your course too? How can I take your sewing course too? And I'm noticing that more. It's coming up. And like even my last one, I think 10 of them asked me, like, how do I take this too? And so I'm starting to see that maybe like our new generation of parents are realizing they had this gap in knowledge and that they're so happy their kids are taking it. But I think I still have a lot more parents to convince.
Yeah.
And like I said, and I think like just relating the skills back and forth between what that potential future university degree can be. Like even if they are going to science or like say medicine, like how sewing is a part of being a doctor, doing stitches matters. Critical thinking and creative thinking sometimes matters. Problem solving when something is tough matters. And these are all things, working in a team even, like in foods class. You have to work in a team of 4, and you have to move like a one unit. And you know, you don't always agree with your partners, but how do you do it beside that? So these are all skills that I hope parents are starting to see matter, and hopefully follow the kids into university. Time management is my favorite one.
Yes.
You can't, do anything as an adult unless you have really great time management, and sewing teaches you that. How do you figure out how long it takes you to cut out a project? How much are you spending on the project? How much are you spending fixing mistakes? How do you meet that deadline before it's due? And then how do you do it while managing your own self and other things like, your homework and stuff outside of it? So yeah, hopefully they start to see the value of it.
I see the value of it, and that's all the time we have. That was such a thoughtful conversation. Thank you.
I hope so.
Yes! Huge thank you to Celine Jackson for chatting with me. You've been listening to For the Record for BCIT's The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you